He was just 14 years old, a boy with a smile so wide it could light up a room. A boy who loved telling jokes, who had a mischievous laugh, and who never imagined his name would one day symbolize both the darkest depths of American racism and the spark of a movement for justice. This is the story of Emmett Till, and it is not an easy story to tell, but it is one we must never forget. It was August 1955 in Chicago. The summer heat hung heavy in the air, but for Emmett Till, known by his friends as Bobo, the world was full of light. He was excited, restless, and full of energy. He was about to leave the city and spend time in the Mississippi Delta with his cousins, a trip that promised fun, new experiences, and freedom away from his mother's watchful eye. Before he left, his mother, Mamie Till-Mobley, pulled him aside. She knew the South. She knew the dangers of being a young black boy in Mississippi. She looked him straight in the eye and told him words that carried the weight of survival. Be careful. Be respectful. Do not look at white women. Don't forget where you are. Emmett listened, but he was a boy of Chicago, raised in a different environment. He didn't fully understand the depth of his mother's warning. He promised to behave, but his youthful confidence could not grasp that in Mississippi, even the smallest gesture could mean life or death. When Emmett arrived in Money, Mississippi, the world felt different. The air was thicker. The rules were harsher. The small town seemed trapped in time where cotton fields stretched endlessly, and the unspoken laws of segregation governed every step a black person took. On August 24th, 1955, Emmett and his cousins went to a small store, Bryant's Grocery and Meat Market. It was a place where children bought candy, soda, and laughter. Inside the store that day was Carolyn Bryant, a 21-year-old white woman, the wife of the store owner. What happened inside remains one of the most contested moments in history. Some said Emmett whistled at her. Others said he smiled, maybe made a playful remark. Some insisted he touched her hand when paying for candy. What is certain is that whatever he did, whether it was a whistle, a smile, or nothing at all, it was enough in 1955 Mississippi to sign his death warrant. For a few days, nothing happened. Emmett went back to his cousin's house, laughing, playing, being the carefree boy he was. But Carolyn Bryant told her husband, Roy, what had happened. And Roy Bryant was not going to let it go. On the night of August 28th, 1955, around 2:30 a.m., Roy Bryant and his half-brother J.W. Milam drove to the home of Emmett's great-uncle, Mose Wright. They banged on the door with fists of fury, demanding the boy who had insulted a white woman. Mose Wright, terrified but protective, begged them to leave Emmett alone. But the men pushed inside. They dragged Emmett from his bed, giving him no time to put on shoes. He was just 14, standing there in his pajamas, heart pounding, eyes wide with fear. His cousins clung to the walls, paralyzed. Emmett's great-uncle later said it was like watching a nightmare unfold in real time. The men pulled Emmett out into the darkness. And as the car drove away, the sound of its engine fading into the Mississippi night, one thing became clear. They weren't bringing him back. For hours, Emmett was tortured, beaten, pistol-whipped, humiliated. His cries silenced by fists, by rage, by hatred so deep it defies human understanding. They wanted to teach him a lesson, to make him pay for daring to act human in a world that saw him as less. By the time they were done, Emmett's face was unrecognizable. His eye was gouged out, his body broken. And then, with cold calculation, they shot him in the head. They tied a heavy cotton gin fan around his neck with barbed wire and dumped his body into the Tallahatchie River. Emmett Till's life ended in darkness, alone, in a place that tried to erase him, but they did not erase him. 3 days later, a fisherman discovered the bloated, mutilated body of a young boy in the river. Authorities wanted to bury him quickly, quietly, to make the evidence disappear. But Mamie Till, his mother, refused. When Emmett's body was returned to Chicago, she insisted on an open casket funeral. She wanted the world to see what had been done to her son. She wanted the world to face the brutality of racism, the savagery that took her boy. At the funeral, tens of thousands came to pay their respects. And when Jet magazine published photographs of Emmett's face swollen, disfigured, barely human, the images burned into the conscience of a nation. People who had ignored the brutality of Jim Crow could no longer look away. The trial of Roy Bryant and J.W. Milam was swift and shameful. An all-white, all-male jury sat in judgment. Mose Wright, Emmett's great-uncle, risked his life by standing up in court, pointing his finger, and identifying the men who took his nephew. His courage was extraordinary. A black man in Mississippi publicly accusing white men in 1955 could mean certain death, but the jury took just over an hour to reach a verdict. Not guilty. They laughed as they lit their cigars, celebrating. Later, protected by double jeopardy, Bryant and Milam admitted to a journalist that they had indeed murdered Emmett Till. They felt no shame, no regret. They believed they were untouchable, but they were wrong, because while Emmett Till's life was stolen, his story became immortal. The murder of Emmett Till ignited something deep within America. Just months later, Rosa Parks, when asked why she refused to give up her seat on a Montgomery bus, said she thought of Emmett Till. His story became the fuel of the civil rights movement, a movement that would shake the foundations of America. Emmett was just 14 years old. He never got to grow up, to fall in love, to live the life that was his right. But in death, he became a symbol, a reminder of the cost of hate, a reminder of why justice must be demanded, even when the world resists. Today, we speak his name, Emmett Till. The boy who whistled, the boy who smiled, the boy who was hunted for existing, the boy whose face forced America to see its reflection in the mirror of its own cruelty. And though the men who murdered him escaped earthly justice, history has judged them. The world has judged them. This is not just a story of the past. It is a warning. It is a call to never forget. Because Emmett Till's story still echoes today in every struggle, in every march, in every demand for justice. And as long as we tell his story, as long as we refuse to look away, his memory lives on. I am Dr. Truth, and this has been Racism, Injustice Files. If you believe stories like Emmett Till's must never be forgotten, if you believe we must continue to shine a light on injustice, then please subscribe to this channel. Together, we will keep these voices alive. Together, we will tell the stories that matter. Because silence is not an option.